Our relationship was very strong and very serious and very real. We went together for 1 year, and he trusted me, and I do not.
In the golden age of Hollywood, some moments are so charged with real emotion that they become almost too much to revisit. For decades, Ann-Margret has refused to watch one deeply intimate scene she filmed with Elvis Presley in 1964. An unreleased duet that revealed the raw truth of their off-screen love. What made this performance so powerful, yet so painful, that Ann-Margret still chooses to keep it locked away? Their on-screen chemistry was electric, but behind the scenes, their relationship was even more intense and complicated. This lost scene immortalized a love that neither could publicly claim without consequence. The hidden duet scene. Among the most poignant yet mysterious chapters in Hollywood history lies a duet between Ann-Margret and Elvis Presley that never made it to the big screen. Filmed during the production of the 1964 movie Viva Las Vegas, this musical moment was unlike any other captured on film between the two stars. Far from a staged performance, it was steeped in raw emotion, an unguarded glimpse into a genuine love story unfolding behind the cameras. Yet, despite its beauty and depth, the scene was quietly removed from the film and locked away, destined to remain a secret for decades. The deleted duet, featuring the song Today, Tomorrow, and Forever, was more than a simple musical number. It was, in many ways, a real-life confession of devotion, encapsulating the intimate connection that had blossomed between Ann-Margret and Elvis. The camera caught Elvis seated at a piano, his voice soft and vulnerable as he sang. Ann-Margret joined him, their voices melding in a harmony that felt too authentic to be fiction, their eyes locked in a way that defied acting. What made this lost scene so unforgettable and hard to revisit was the total lack of artifice, like none of it felt manufactured. Both performers somehow went past their parts, turning the whole thing into this hush-hush exchange between lovers, not this clean scripted back and forth. The tenderness and the plain, shaky openness in every note, every look, made it clear there was an Elvis side that most people never got to see. And Ann-Margret had this depth, almost like you could feel it from the inside out. It felt made from real passion and honest feeling, not something that could be faked. The emotional weight of the duet was so heavy that even the studio understood the risk in putting it out. Back then, when celebrities' personal lives were kept on a short leash, this moment could have shown too much. It basically laid bare a romance tangled up with fame, jealousy, and all those duties that refused to line up with the heart. The public wasn't really ready for that kind of closeness, so the scene got cut fast. But you know how it is. The effect still stayed in the air behind the curtains, quietly. Ann-Margret has even talked about how memories tied to that scene keep following her decades later. If she watched it again, it would mean facing a chapter of her life that was both bright with love and brutal with heartbreak. The duet stays like a small, sacred token, a private emblem of something that was beautiful but impossible. And because it's missing from public view, its mystique keeps growing, turning into this painful secret kept close by the people who knew it was there. Fans and historians have speculated for years about the scene and why it mattered. But really, very few have caught even tiny glimpses of the footage. The duet's aura has thickened with time, almost mythical now. Understanding the talents and experiences each brought to the screen will shed light on the intensity of their connection and the remarkable impact of their time together. Ann-Margret's rise. Before stepping onto the set with Elvis Presley, Ann-Margret was already carving out a formidable legacy in Hollywood and the music world. Born in Sweden and raised in the American Midwest, she brought a unique blend of European flair and raw Midwestern energy to the stage. Her rise in the early 60s was rapid. Signed to the same record label as Elvis, RCA Victor, she didn't just perform, she electrified every room she entered. Critics often compared her to Elvis, calling her his female counterpart for her magnetic stage presence and unfiltered rhythm. Unlike many of her contemporaries, Ann-Margret was not classically trained, yet Her instinctive grasp of timing, movement, and charisma made her stand out. She was a natural performer, with a style that seemed to pulse from deep within rather than a learned technique. This authentic energy helped her steal scenes in musicals and claim attention wherever she went. Audiences felt her in a way that few stars do. It was impossible to ignore her. Her reputation was built not just on beauty or voice, but on a vibe that combined vulnerability, strength, and electric confidence. She danced with a fire that perfectly complemented her singing and acting, making her a triple threat in Hollywood at the time. By the time Viva Las Vegas was cast, she was more than a rising star. She was a force ready to erupt on the silver screen and capture hearts beyond just fans of musicals. Her collaboration with Elvis was seen by many as a kind of perfect match of talent and temperament, like it just clicked without anyone forcing it. Unlike those typical polished starlets who usually played his love interest so smoothly, Ann-Margret's energy felt more wild, like it really shook up the whole dynamic. And somehow, together they brought back that earlier, raw essence of rock and roll into Hollywood musicals again, mixing charm with a genuine spark that honestly hadn't shown up much in years. Ann-Margret's rise also seemed to point to a change in Hollywood during that era, moving toward more vibrancy and realness, even while the studio gloss kept acting like everything was supposed to look perfect. She carried the hopes of a newer kind of leading lady, someone who could bridge music, dance, and film with this almost contagious vivacity. Her persona was both modern and still classic, which pulled in a broad audience, people who wanted fresh faces and new stories, not the same recycled storyline over and over. That whole momentum basically set the stage for what later became one of the most talked about pairings in entertainment history. Ann-Margret's mix of European roots and Midwestern grit made her feel uniquely relatable and somehow captivating at the same time. Audiences could tell she wasn't just polished, she was deeply inspired, and it resonated with them on a level that rivaled Elvis's magnetic appeal in a way that felt hard to ignore. Unpacking Elvis's own professional path reveals just how pivotal their partnership truly was. Elvis in Hollywood's golden years. By 1964, Elvis Presley was already cemented as the undisputed king of rock and roll, but his film career presented a growing challenge. Despite his massive popularity, he found himself stuck in a series of safely produced, formulaic musicals that showcased his singing but seldom offered opportunities to stretch his acting skills. Hollywood had shaped him into a certain image, the boy next door with a guitar and a smile. But Elvis was increasingly restless beneath the surface. His manager, Colonel Tom Parker, played a significant role in steering Elvis's career toward predictable roles designed to sustain popularity rather than artistic growth. Parker favored safe bets over riskier projects, prioritizing steady commercial success. This approach frustrated Elvis, who longed for scripts and roles that could excite him creatively and offer a deeper outlet for expression. The arrival of Viva Las Vegas presented a potential turning point. Set against the vibrant backdrop of a desert city, the film was conceived as a fun, lighthearted musical about race car drivers and romance. Yet, behind the scenes, it became the setting for something far more meaningful for Elvis. A chance to recapture some of the passion and spontaneity. Elvis's hope for a more engaged performance found kind of a match when Ann-Margret joined the cast. Unlike the previous leading ladies, she brought this rawness, this non-stop intensity, and it sort of reignited a spark in Elvis. The two connected not only as performers, but also as individuals craving authenticity in an industry that often favored surface over the real substance. The chemistry between Elvis and Ann-Margret quickly turned the whole tone of the film. Their on-screen scenes, especially the musical numbers and dance sequences, buzzed with a real energy and emotion that didn't feel forced. For the first time in a while, Elvis wasn't just acting out a role, but almost living it alongside a partner who pushed him and also inspired him at the same time. Still, despite the creative highs, Elvis stayed caught in the tensions of his career plus his personal life. The pressures of fame, management decisions, and those complicated relationships loomed large, like always, and his growing yearning for meaningful artistic expression was often at odds with the commercial demands that kept getting laid on him. Viva Las Vegas offered a quick glimpse of what Elvis's career could be when passion and opportunity line up together. It briefly let him step outside the constraints that had limited his growth on screen. That's why the duet scene felt even more poignant, because it was one of those moments where real emotion met with the hope for something greater, even if it didn't last. Their creative and personal paths collided at a moment when both were desperate for meaning, creating an intensity that neither time nor circumstance could fully erase. Chemistry on and off set. From the very first moment Ann-Margret stepped onto the Viva Las Vegas set, the atmosphere shifted in a way few anticipated. Unlike Elvis's previous co-stars, she shared with him a raw, untamed energy that mirrored his own. Their connection wasn't just professional. It was an electric, almost magnetic bond that pulsed beneath every scene they filmed together. This chemistry translated into a natural ease on camera, making their romantic moments feel genuine and unscripted. Director George Sidney later remarked that he barely needed to guide them during their love scenes. The camera simply captured what was already happening between two people who were truly drawn to each other. Their shared passion for performing and their love of motorcycles added layers to their relationship, blending their personal interests with their on-screen roles. These connections made their dance sequences and musical numbers sparkle with a vitality rarely seen in Hollywood musicals of the era. One particularly memorable scene took place in a hotel gymnasium where they danced together seamlessly. Ann-Margret's rhythmic style perfectly complemented Elvis's natural groove, creating a synchronicity that suggested years of partnership rather than a brief filming period. Their bodies moved in harmony, each responding intuitively to the other, an unspoken language flowing through every step and gesture. This effortless unity was a visual testament to their deepening bond. Off-screen, their relationship blossomed just as intensely. During breaks, they spent hours talking, peeling back layers of their public personas to reveal their hopes, fears, and dreams. Elvis was captivated by Ann-Margret's unique European roots and her journey from Sweden to the American entertainment scene. In turn, she saw past his superstar image to the vulnerable, passionate man beneath. This mutual fascination fostered a connection that went well beyond a casual Hollywood romance. Their closeness wasn't hidden for long. Cast and crew members looked on as the pair became almost, well, inseparable, and their chemistry spilled out of rehearsals into long private evenings together. They rode motorbikes across the Nevada desert, chased down quiet dinners far from the press, and exchanged little confidences clear into the night. Those moments of escape gave some kind of relief from the relentless glare of fame, and somehow made their relationship feel like a rare kind of intimacy. The intensity of their love started to creep into the work, like it was impossible not to. Scenes that seemed to steam with real emotion pulled audiences in and made it feel like the border between acting and reality was getting blurry. When people watched them, viewers couldn't help it but think they were catching genuine passion, not just something rehearsed. Their relationship turned into this quiet, behind-the-scenes fuel for a lot of the film's energy, raising expectations and lending extra weight to the story. Still, under all that romance, problems simmered. Both of them were juggling complicated personal and professional terrain, with pressures coming from studios, managers, and the media. For Elvis, the strict grip of Colonel Tom Parker loomed over everything, while Ann-Margret dealt with worries from her own team about what it would mean to be seen as Elvis's girlfriend. All those outside pulls complicated what might have, at least on paper, looked like a simple love story. The making of that duet was as memorable as the emotions that birthed it, forever marking their shared history. Filming the duet. The filming of the now famous yet unreleased duet between Elvis and Ann-Margret took place in a suddenly hushed studio where every element seemed charged with quiet intensity. Elvis sat at a piano in a dimly lit room, fingers gliding across the keys, while his voice carried a tenderness that starkly contrasted with his usual bold performances. As he sang "Today, Tomorrow, and Forever," the room filled not only with music, but with a palpable weight of emotion rarely witnessed by others. Ann-Margret entered the scene as if pulled by an invisible thread drawn to Elvis's heartfelt melody. Her movements were deliberate, her eyes locked onto his with a gaze that conveyed unspoken feelings. The camera caught every nuanced touch, from the gentle brush of her hand on his shoulder to the shared glances that closed the gap between performance and personal truth. Their voices melded together seamlessly, weaving a harmony that spoke more of their real relationship than a scripted duet. Unlike other planned musical numbers, this scene was almost spontaneous. The usual choreography and staging gave way to a natural flow rooted in vulnerability. Both performers responded intuitively to one another's emotional cues, transforming the moment into what felt like a private conversation conveyed through song. This created an intimacy that stunned all who witnessed it, blurring the line between art and life. As the duet unfolded, a montage subtly showcased clips of their characters' relationship. Yet even these edited segments couldn't dilute the raw power at the heart of the scene. The authenticity transcended fiction. Two people deeply connected by love, expressing sentiments too profound for words alone, communicated everything through music and body language. It was a moment locked in time, a fragile yet powerful testament to their bond. Studio executives quickly realized the potential volatility of what had been captured, immediately. This wasn't just some ordinary performance, but more of a depiction of a very real, private romance, kind of aired in plain sight. At a time when stars' images were carefully curated, the duet risked to unravel the controlled narrative, exposing the complications in their lives and affections. The call to cut the scene was pretty fast and decisive, though, but the footage somehow survived, tucked deep within MGM's archive vaults, like it was waiting. The emotional toll on both Elvis and Ann-Margret during filming was, in a word, huge. Ann-Margret has recalled feeling utterly lost in the moment, letting go of all professional distance to respond purely to Elvis's emotional expression. That vulnerability left her emotionally exposed in a way she rarely, if ever, allowed, and later it made her reluctant to watch the scene again. Elvis, too, found himself unable to separate his feelings from the performance, turning it into this emotional record of a man who was captivated and conflicted all at once. Really, this duet was more than a simple musical number. It was a snapshot of two hearts intertwined amidst Hollywood pressures and personal circumstance. The strength of their connection, laid bare in this song, was something neither could easily reproduce or revisit. For both of them, the scene hit as a peak moment of vulnerability and hope, even with the quiet awareness of challenges they weren't sure how to face yet. Not really. The weight of this performance and what followed would forever influence how they saw themselves, their careers, and each other, even as distance and circumstances forced their paths to diverge. The decision to cut. The decision to remove the duet "Today, Tomorrow, and Forever" from Viva Las Vegas was far from simple. Studio executives, directors, and even Elvis and Ann-Margret recognized that the scene went beyond a typical musical number. It was an unfiltered confession of their real-life romance, raw, intimate, and deeply revealing. At a time when stars' images were carefully cultivated and controlled, this kind of exposure felt risky and potentially damaging. The duet captured emotions that blurred the lines between their characters and their true feelings, presenting a vulnerability both beautiful and dangerous. For the studio, this authenticity threatened to invite unwanted scrutiny and speculation into their private lives. It was no longer just entertainment. It was a private love story laid bare for public consumption, something the industry preferred to keep behind closed doors. Elvis's reputation was carefully managed by Colonel Tom Parker, who favored roles and publicity that maintained Elvis as a wholesome, accessible figure. A deeply publicized romance with Ann-Margret, especially one so openly expressed on film, risked complicating that narrative. Meanwhile, Ann-Margret's team worried the relationship might overshadow her career, reducing her to just another Elvis girlfriend, rather than a serious artist in her own right. Both stars felt that weight. You know, like the whole thing was there, even when they tried to look past it. They both, at least in their own way, valued the connection they had, but they also fully understood the professional stakes that were sitting underneath everything. The scene got removed eventually, quietly and quickly, but somehow the impact and the memory of it stayed, like it wasn't really gone. For Ann-Margret especially, it turned into a sort of symbol, a crossroads between clear professional boundaries and this much more personal vulnerability that she couldn't just tuck away. Behind the scenes, the deleted duet kind of took on a mythic status. People talked, cast and crew, in half-whispers and side glances, but the public couldn't access it. The secrecy made it even more alluring, like a haunting reminder of tenderness that neither of them wanted to lose, yet neither could publicly share. The footage stayed locked up in the MGM archives as if it was proof of what might have been if they had chosen differently. Ann-Margret has talked about the emotional toll this choice brought with it. The duet, she said, captured a peak moment in their relationship, full of hope and passion, yes, but also shadowed by the awareness that trouble was looming. Rewatching it again became too painful, and it basically forced her to face a kind of love that couldn't completely survive the realities around them. Elvis was affected too. He was known for meticulously controlling his public image and for keeping a strict separation between performance and private life. So this kind of emotional exposure, well, it hit hard. The moment became a rare crack in the carefully constructed persona, showing a man torn between desire and duty, like both things were pulling in different directions at once. Their story's complexity was about to deepen further, mirroring the struggles that fame and loyalty would impose upon their love, the love triangle and challenges. The romantic triangle surrounding Elvis, Ann-Margret, and Priscilla Presley cast a long shadow over what might have otherwise been a simpler love story. By the time Viva Las Vegas was filming, Priscilla was living at Graceland, and she and Elvis shared a complicated, established relationship. This reality presented a heartbreaking challenge for Ann-Margret, who found herself deeply in love with a man already committed to someone else. The emotional complexity of this situation weighed heavily on all involved. Ann-Margret has described this period as one of the most emotionally difficult in her life. Torn between her genuine feelings for Elvis and her respect for Priscilla's place in his life. This unresolved tension also intensified the undercurrents in their performances, especially in moments of intimacy like the deleted duet. Elvis himself wrestled with his conflicted loyalties. He had never before experienced a connection like the one he shared with Ann-Margret, one marked by artistic passion and personal vulnerability. Yet, he was bound by promises and responsibilities that made breaking away from Priscilla difficult, if not impossible. This inner turmoil added a layer of melancholy to his work and his life. Behind the scenes, the real power player complicating matters was Colonel Tom Parker. Known for his tight control over Elvis's career and personal decisions, Parker reportedly manipulated situations to maintain the King's public image and financial success, often at the expense of Elvis's happiness. Friends have characterized Parker as controlling to a degree that verged on ruthless, stifling Elvis's freedom. The pressures from management, combined with conflicting personal obligations, created an environment where the romance with Ann-Margret, no matter how genuine, was doomed to be fraught with barriers. The media frenzy fueled by competing interests worsened the situation, with photographers and gossip columnists relentlessly pursuing stories and pictures of the couple. The constant spotlight became an unwelcome intrusion on their private connection. Despite this, Elvis and Ann-Margret kind of looked for refuge in stolen moments away from the public eye. They rode motorcycles through the desert and shared quiet evenings, then clung to a fragile sense of normalcy inside all that chaos. Those private times were like precious little escapes, letting them brief but intense relief from the pressures that kept pressing in on them. Still, reality intruded. The impossible triangle not only tangled their emotional lives, but made a real, sustained future together, all but unthinkable. The pulls of career, loyalty, and the public expectation kind of formed invisible chains that neither could easily loosen. Their love, even with all its depth, got caught in a storm of circumstance. This whole impossible setup gave a heartbreaking undertone to their duet and even their on-screen performances. The awareness that their most intimate moments were layered with personal sacrifice and dreams that never fully arrived adds complexity and a kind of poignancy you don't often see in Hollywood romances. The collision of their hearts with the unforgiving machinery of Hollywood and fame created both magic and misery, a bittersweet legacy that would end up shaping the rest of their lives and careers, too. As their story reached its most painful crossroads, the echoes of love and loss would resonate long after the cameras stopped rolling. Legacy of the Lost Moment. Decades have passed since the intimate duet between Elvis Presley and Ann-Margret was filmed, yet its echoes continue to resonate deeply. For Ann-Margret, the scene remains an emotional watershed, a private shrine to a love that was as extraordinary as it was impossible. She has chosen not to watch the footage, preserving the memory of that moment as something too sacred and vulnerable to revisit. This refusal is not just about personal pain. It is a testament to the enduring power of their connection. The lost duet has taken on almost mythical proportions among fans and film historians. Bootleg copies have circulated, but Ann-Margret has never sought them out, preferring to keep her memories intact and unaltered by the passage of time or the lens of public scrutiny. This choice reflects a profound respect for the authenticity of what was captured, a moment when two souls bared themselves without pretense. For her, some memories are too precious to unravel. That scene represented more than just a deleted musical number. It was a capsule of raw emotion, a rare glimpse of vulnerability from both stars at the height of their fame. Elvis's usual controlled public persona gave way to genuine tenderness, revealing a man deeply in love and conflicted, while Ann-Margret's voice softened to reveal her own emotional surrender. Together, they created something transcendent that has never been duplicated. The aftermath of this private moment shaped their lives in profound ways. Their relationship could not withstand the pressures of Hollywood, management, and personal commitments, but the impact lingered in their careers and personal journeys. Elvis's performances in later films lacked the same urgency and authenticity, while Ann-Margret channeled her heartbreak into roles that showcased a depth born of real experience. Their lost duet became a symbol of both love found and love lost. This story also marked a turning point for Ann-Margret's approach to her profession. After giving herself so completely to a relationship that ended painfully, she learned to guard her heart more carefully. The vulnerability she had shown in that scene became a rarity in her professional life, replaced by a protective instinct that helped her sustain a long and successful career. Still, the memory of that connection shaped her understanding of love and artistry. Elvis himself never really said much, not publicly, about the deleted duet, but people close to him did hint that he also found it kinda hard to go back into that scene. His loyalty, his guilt, and all the limits management put in front of him. That mix made a messy, emotional place. The duet shows that kind of tension like a man pulled between wanting and duty, stuck in a genuine moment of feeling that couldn't be fully taken in by the public, or even by him. And their romance, saved and also sort of frozen in that forbidden clip, stays as a sore reminder of what must sometimes be given up when love collides with fame. It points to that fight between the image people see and the real private stuff, between what a star is expected to display and what they keep close behind closed doors. For Ann-Margret and Elvis, this friction didn't just describe their relationship, it basically shaped their legacy too. Now, when Ann-Margret looks back on those days with Elvis, she talks with a blend of admiration, respect, and sorrow. She names their connection as a meeting of spirits and a level she hasn't really seen duplicated since. The duet isn't only a lost moment, it's the core of a love that changed two lives and left a lasting trace on Hollywood history. The bigger legacy of an unrealized future and that hidden scene still lingers. It feels like a quiet emblem of a connection that went beyond, the artistic drive underneath it all, and the bittersweet price of love lived under the spotlight. Like fame doesn't just watch it, it also weighs it down a bit. The story of Elvis and Ann-Margret's forbidden duet reminds us how love and art can intertwine in ways both beautiful and heartbreaking. Their private moment, captured on film, remains a testament to genuine emotion often hidden from public view. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into Hollywood's most compelling secrets.